Hello, everyone. This is Kat Sturtz from rockingyourpath.com, and it's another episode of Fast Action Friday. I am so excited about my guest today because she does something that I have very little experience in, no professional experience at all, just some stage work. But she's a professional percussionist, and I'm going to let her do a quick little introduction about herself, and then we're going to get to today's topic where Dori is going to explain how we can find our divine rhythm. So Dori, tell people a little about yourself.
Sure. I come from a long line of artists and musicians. My father played with a lot of the jazz greats in New York City. We're talking Dave Brubeck and Artie Shaw and some of the older big band types of jazz. So I heard
wonderful.
Jazz growing up, some classical. He had all of his instruments available when he went to his day job, because he did take a day job in what was called commercial art back then. It's graphic design now. We lived in New Jersey, and he would hop on the bus to New York City. Well, while he was gone, hell, it was fair game. So I taught myself how to play percussion on conga drums. He had some bongos, he had maracas and all. I just loved rhythm since I was little. I was the kid who was tapping on everything, from chopsticks, anything became drumsticks, silverware, pencils, whatever I could get my hands on. And I just had more energy than I knew what to do with. But my dad said no drums, because we lived in a two-family house. He was a single parent with 3 girls, God bless him. And so he said it would be too noisy. So he handed me a guitar instead. So I started out with a guitar, had singing lessons, guitar lessons, dance. I did the dance mainly for my energy. But the drums did not enter the picture until much, much later in life. So if people are thinking, oh, it's too late to start, fill in the blank. It could be a business, it could be a new career, it could be playing an instrument. I was 47 when I saw a little ad in the bulletin at a very cool church that I visited. I actually followed the band. They played at an outdoor event. It was a walkathon, and I had participated in the walkathon, and they were playing cover tunes. I wanted to know, wow, that's a really good band. And somebody said, it's a church band. I went, what? What church has music like that? They said, yeah, they play that at church too. So I went and I visited, and sure enough, they were looking for musicians to join the band. So I filled out the card, the interest card, and sent it in, put it in the basket. My husband and son said, you did what? I said, I signed up to audition for the band. And they said, but you haven't had any lessons. I didn't even have any instruments at home. I didn't. I was like the steering wheel drummer, you know. But I had booked and managed a lot of young bands for years. And I always told them, one of these days I'm going to jump on stage. And so finally I said, why should the kids have all the fun? So I signed up, I auditioned on a Thursday, and they said, okay, we'll see you Sunday. And I said, what, this Sunday? Like in a few days from now? They said, yeah, you're in. I went, wow, either they're extremely nice or they're extremely desperate. I'm not sure which. I really wasn't all that good. But hey, I got the hang of it. I'm a quick study. And I've been with them ever since. It's been many, many, many years. I won't reveal my age, but
we like late bloomers here. Now, Cindy and John. Cindy's also a wonderful singer, songwriter. She plays the guitar and does a wonderful writer as well. That's Write It For You.
Yes, I'm reading her comments here, and I totally get it. Yes, that's what I was told too. Girls don't play drums.
Yes, absolutely. I guess they never saw the Carpenter.
But now I'm dating myself. Keep in mind that I decided at that point, oh yeah, well, I'm going to become the first female drummer. So this was before Karen Carpenter. So she beat me to it.
And we love late bloomers here. Yeah. I never studied writing, never expected to be a writer, but I always did writing, you know, for my own benefit. And suddenly in 1971, I'm writing for the local paper and have been writing pretty much ever since then, and didn't get a business degree, didn't get any kind of degree until I I guess I was 58 when I got my bachelor's, and I didn't start college until my late 40s when my youngest was a sophomore. That's cool. All right. Well, we want to get to the tips. What tips do you have for us to help us find our divine rhythm, and why is that important?
Well, keep in mind that I wrote the book, Find Your Divine Rhythm, A Creative Success Formula, for several reasons. Number one, I wanted to tell my triumph over adversity story of how I was in this freak accident and I thought that was it for me. The accident triggered a rare disease and just lots of other wonderful symptoms. And I just asked myself, and I'd like your audience to consider the following question. What would you do if you thought you only had a year to live? What would that change? Would you finally go for it? Or would you hold back? So I decided life's short. I didn't want to just move on to the next stage of life. I didn't want to sit there. I didn't want to accept the diagnosis. And I didn't want to accept pain meds, recommendations for surgery, any of that. And they just told me that, well, you're going to have to face it, Dori, that, well, first of all, you're old. This happens to older people. I said, I was fine before I got run over by a speeding bicycle dude. I didn't have any symptoms, number one, and accept the reality. And I just said, well, hey, that's your reality. My reality is much, much different. I was very, very busy, very active before the accident. And I unfortunately had to give up playing in the band for a while. And I just decided, no, I want my life back. And I want to finally do what I want to do. So Find Your Divine Rhythm is a metaphor in some respects because I did contact some divine intervention. I contacted the man upstairs. If you were not a person of faith and this does not gel with what your beliefs, I'm sorry, but it's my story. I'm sticking with it. And so
the only thing we can do, that's what we preach.
Exactly.
To follow your unique path.
I know I needed some divine intervention to heal, and that's what I got. My request was granted. I wanted a way to heal myself and heal others. The message that I got back was, Dori, look around. I already did. And there were all my drums. And I realized that I had already been using drums to help people with ADHD issues, kids mainly. And I was doing fun drumming events, but I was mainly trying to come up with different techniques to help cure the static in the attic, as I call it. I did not know that it would actually help me with physical healing very, very quickly. So it did. In 2 weeks, I did what the doctors couldn't do in 3 long years.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me at all.
That's how, really. So that's why my hashtag is drums, not drugs.
Yep.
I've kept thousands of kids off of Ritalin and Adderall before the drumming even, and then when I added the drumming, it was even cooler. But yeah, so Find Your Divine Rhythm is find what you really love. And I had to ask myself during that healing time, what do I really want to do? What lights me up inside? What is it that I can't live without? Keep in mind that I had this day job. It's where the accident happened because it was during the recession. So I thought, oh, I better make some extra money. But I did have these other businesses on the side. And of all the things that I did, I had to really get serious about it. And I told people, you're going to laugh. But what I really want to do, I just want to drum. And I know I've got an MBA in finance, but I just want to drum. They kept saying, oh, you got the MBA, you got to be a business coach, you got to go out there, you got to, dress the part. And I said, but I just want to drum. Girls just want to have fun. So I found a way to take something that I love, and you can do this with a hobby. I've helped lots of people convert their hobby into a full-time business because, again, I was a business coach. That was like business number 2. And so that was my mission, to help creatives, especially because I do have a strong heart for creatives, but I've helped lots of other people too. Find what lights you up inside. Find the gifts that God gave you. There's the divine part for you. And use those to help bless others and make a solid income. You don't want to just give everything away because, musicians and artists and creatives, for some unknown reason, people expect us to play for free or what. I don't get it. But the young artists that I book, even the ones that are only 21, they never play for free. I won't let them. So when somebody asks me to come out and bring enough drums for 50 people and do these events for free, I just tell them, I'm sorry, but I have to honor my gifts and talents, number one. I have to honor my story. You know, I wasn't healed for nothing. And I'm not out here now. I can lift the drums and I can play and everything. You know, that's worth something. And so is my expertise. And so is the fact that when I drum with people, healing generally takes place.
That's an awesome story, awesome message. And that's fits so well with what we teach here on Fast Action Fridays and in my own coaching business. So that's great. So what's the next tip that you have?
The next tip is to, if you have a story, if something's happened to you, I learned that you can't just lull in it and have it mill around and have it control you, because it really can. I run into a lot of people who use their story as an excuse. Well, I can't do this because, well, I can't possibly start a business story because I don't have money, or I don't have this, or this happens. And I said, look, I'm going to keep it real here. I started a business with only $40, and that was enough to buy 3 domain names, the .com, the .net, and the .biz. Later, I added the .org. That's all I had. I had $10 left, and I made business cards using cardstock and a free template. Keep in mind, I was severely injured, and I could barely walk, let alone move, and I was dragging myself to networking events and doing guest speaking and whatever I could to get out there. Plus, I was way past 50. So I asked people, oh, and I had this rare disease. So what's your excuse? So I decided to make my mess my message. And I wish I could claim credit to that, but that's actually not mine. It was a newscaster and a former cancer patient who came up with that.
I've heard a lot of people use that.
Make your mess your message.
Yeah, Suzanne Evans and Adam Urbanski and a lot of people.
Right. Well, they got it from
yes, absolutely.
But anyway, the point is that you can bounce back from anything. You really can. You need to be determined, number one. You need to be willing to do the work, number two. And number three, you have to really want it. You have to ask yourself, how much do I really want this? I've worked with coaching clients who are entrepreneurs, and I've worked with loads and loads of bands and solo artists. And if they ask me to manage them especially, I ask them those questions. What are your goals? Your 1-year goal, your 5-year goal. And how much do you really want this? How important is it to you? And if they just want to do it for fun, that's fine. Then I'll approach it from a different direction. But if they've got a whole lot of talent and they're going to just toss it or not use it, or keep it on the back burner, I'm going to bug them a little bit. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I do the same thing with the wannabe writers. It's okay if you only want to do it for yourself. That's a perfectly legitimate thing to do. But if you have that desire, if you are willing to do the work and not just be the wannabe, want everything to come to you, but go out and be available for the opportunities, because that's what it is, right? You have to make yourself available for the opportunities.
It's more the availability than the aptitude in some cases. I'm not the best percussionist in the world. I know that. I'm not ready to go on tour with Santana or Bruno Mars anytime soon. Oh, that would be really cool. But I do. But hey, just in case they're listening, hey, I'm ready.
Give me Santana over Marco. Excuse me, I'm an old school girl.
I'm ready. But the point is, I make myself available and I take advantage of opportunities. You have to keep your eyes and ears open. You have to network with people. You have to connect. Don't be afraid. And you know what I used to tell my bands, and I still do? You don't ask, you don't get. Because they wanted to know, Dori, how do you get us extra money and how do you get all these extra perks? I said, because I ask. It doesn't hurt to ask.
Right.
Just like when I auditioned with the band, it doesn't hurt to give it a shot. I figure, what's the worst thing that could happen? If they say no, they say no. Oh well, at least you tried. Most people never even give it a shot. And if you don't give it a shot, you'll never know. You'll always wonder, what if? You don't want to live a life of what ifs. You want to live a life of why the heck not?
Exactly. Exactly. All right. Now you sent me kind of the outline of what we were going to talk about. And there's the next two things have me fascinated. So I want you to address those. So like number 3 tip on your list was connecting with your audience like a rock star. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, because I have emceed a lot of my shows, and way back when I was younger, I did a lot of singing and dancing. And keep in mind, I originally was a very, very shy child. I was a severe introvert. I even like looked down and mumbled when I talked to adults. It was really bad. And then I discovered the stage. And I got in touch with my inner Ham that I didn't know existed, but apparently she really does. And I learned how to command the stage. And I began coaching musicians and solo artists, and sometimes I give tips to speakers. There's certain things that you need to keep in mind. Number 1, it's not all about you. I hate to break it to you, especially the young bands that are out there, especially if you're a Christian band, it's definitely not about you. It's about your audience. Mm-hmm. So whether you are speaking to a crowd, or maybe you're just doing a presentation at work, or you're actually on stage, you've got to make eye contact. You've got to connect with them, ask questions, put in some things that audience can relate to. Every audience is different, so know your audience. Don't go in there with I don't know, metal tunes. If you're playing a country bar, it's not going to fly. Well, first of all, you shouldn't have booked the gig anyway. You should have done your research. But I have seen people who go in, they're very shy, they're very tentative. They hold back. They need to project their voice better. They need to use their hands and open up your arms. Don't be doing this closed hand thing. And enunciate, slow down. It's really hard for me to do coming from New Jersey. I can get all New Jersey, hey, get a cup of coffee, you know what I'm saying? I have to really slow it down and stop between sentences, which I'm so talkative now, I can just keep going. So you have to be very, very aware. Is your audience getting this? Are they absorbing what you're doing? Are you seeing people nodding their heads? That's always a good sign. Do they look confused? That's not a good. Are they reaching for their phone right away? Definitely not a good sign.
Right.
So if you are not reaching your audience, you better switch it up, baby. You better come up with something, a joke, story, something that's going to engage them and keep the presentation or the show, keep it moving. No dead air. That means just stopping and fidgeting with stuff. What's next? What's on the set list? What are my notes? Watch the uhs. Tape yourself, record yourself at home and see what it looks like. And then you'll see, oh boy, there are a few mistakes in there. Anyway, so yes, command the stage like a rock star means own it.
Yeah. Take
own your
responsibility
talent,
for it. Absolutely.
Right. Bring it. And if you make a mistake, just go with the flow, laugh it off, keep going.
Yeah. Okay. Now the next one, powering up, the diet for creatives and ADHD types. What you talking about?
I'm sorry, reading the notes. You're speaking of ADHD. What? Can you repeat the question, please?
All right. You wrote powering up the diet for creatives.
Diet. Oh, okay. The diet thing. Yes. A lot of people don't realize that there are underlying issues that can cause ADHD symptoms. I personally don't buy into the acronym. I don't think it's a disorder, and I don't think it's a deficit. I don't think we are broken or defective in any way. That label gives that stigma. Some people have embraced the label because it does come with certain benefits, especially for students. I personally have not. When people say, oh my gosh, Dori, you're about as ADD as you can get, I tell them, hey, ADD stands for a delightful dreamer.
Yeah.
And ADHD is a definitely hyper drummer. And I'm both. So there you go.
Right.
But I have learned that there are underlying issues causing the symptoms because I came up with Dori's top 10. Keep in mind that I did a 20-year study, lots of case studies that made me come to these conclusions. I actually got the top 10 pretty fast, pretty quickly, and then I found some other things as I went along. Allergies, asthma, hypoglycemia, these can all cause ADHD symptoms.
Right.
Anything that's happening at home or school that can cause you to have just lots of racing thoughts. Hormonal issues, especially for women of a certain age. They get diagnosed as ADHD because they can't concentrate, and it's not that, it's something else. It could be thyroid. But the hypoglycemia issue is very, very pervasive, and I have been dealing with this for years and years. So I tell people that we have low blood sugar issues going on during the day. Not everybody, but a lot of us do. And we don't even realize it. So I tell people, keep a high protein diet. I'm now a pesca vegan, so it's a little bit harder to get extra protein, but I can still do it. And you need to have healthy snacks. So I have 3 square meals a day and 3 healthy snacks. You need to balance your any natural sugars you do with a protein. So I used to just grab an apple and think, oh, that's enough. It's natural sugar. But it was too much sugar and my blood sugar would drop, and then I'd get all cranky, or I would get tired, or I couldn't focus and I didn't know why. So I needed to balance that with some sort of protein. So yes, you are fueling the machine, people. So if you are an entrepreneur, a musician, or whatever you're doing, you have to realize that some things take extra energy, and you've got to be prepared for that. If you're eating junk food and processed food and things that convert to sugar quickly, and you're grabbing those Monster and Rockstar energy drinks, of course you're going to crash quickly. That stuff is junk, people. I'm sorry.
No, absolutely.
So you have to find other sources, because it does, what you eat and what you drink does affect your brain and your concentration.
Yeah.
If somebody walks in for a session, I have kids come for like Saturday morning sessions, and they would be drinking Mountain Dew and having Cheetos, I would just, yeah, breakfast of champions right there. No wonder you can't focus.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Exactly.
Part of
And
it.
those letters, I'm not a medically licensed to give any medical advice, but I do know that doctors can't prescribe a drug unless there is a disease that's been identified. So we label a lot of things as diseases these days that in the past weren't considered diseases. They were just considered symptoms or different types of behavior, and they were handled differently. I'm not vegan, but we do eat a lot of primarily a vegetarian diet here. We do like a little bit of meat. So, a pea rice protein is our go-to protein, along with spirulina, which is a blue-green, kelp algae. So I hear you on that. I want to get to the last one that you have here. And it says, the one thing you need more than anything else. I'm going to put my Jack Palance City Slickers finger up. The one thing that you need more than anything else. And you said, no, it's not cash. So what is it?
Right. A lot of people assume that it's cash, but it's actually another word that begins with the letter C. It's confidence. You really have to find ways to boost your confidence so that you believe in yourself and what you're doing. Because if you don't believe it, you won't be able to have anyone else follow you, buy from you, book you, or anything else. If you can't sell yourself, then how do you expect others to want to jump on board?
No.
So yeah, and that's, I work with a lot of people to help them realize their inner strengths and talents. So, because I might be the first person that has told them, dude, you have any idea how talented you are? Or did you have any idea how you can take this piece here and combine it with that to create this? And boom, there you go. I brainstorm really quickly. So I'm a big picture thinker. Most people, they just focus on what they can't do.
Or wait for somebody else to give them permission to be great. Or
permission. Yeah, well, I give them permission.
Yeah.
Hey, life's short. Time is now. So what are you waiting for? No one's going to wave a magic wand and say, okay, now it's time. Sometimes you just have to go for it and say, if not now, then when?
Right.
Yeah, most people don't realize their gifts and what they have to bring to the table.
Right.
And even if you're doing something that other people are doing, you are doing it in a different way, and nobody can do it like you can do it. So go for it.
Absolutely. We're speaking the same language. Even on my 10 tips for finding time, there's a line that says, be first to believe in you. And it's like, why should anyone else have confidence in you. Some do. I mean, there are great coaches out there that will help bring you forward, but you have to believe in yourself before you can expect anyone else to truly believe in you. So that confidence is so important.
Exactly.
We have a question here from Cindy. Write it for you. And I'm going to read it for the benefit of those listening to the replay later. Allergies and asthma can cause ADD and ADHD issues. Wow. I need to look more into this. The older I have gotten, the more allergies and sensitivities that have shown up. I was diagnosed with ADD as an adult. So I'm going to finish her unasked question here. Is there anything you would advise that she research or, focus her attention on in helping her understand this?
Yes, it's a little tricky because there are certain sensitivities that can't be detected when people do like the allergy tests and things like that. Especially with young kids, red food dye is a biggie, and they can't necessarily test for that. So some of us are allergic or sensitive to certain things, and the way you find out is keep a food journal. Just track different things that you're eating and how did you feel afterwards. If your blood sugar is going to drop, it's usually about 30 minutes after you eat something. If you had a reaction or you spaced out or you had a rash, or, you could find, I've seen kids got bumps on their skin. Some had the white marks on their fingernails. They had allergic shiners under their eyes. There were all kinds of clues that the doctors missed. And I was like, you got to be kidding. Again, I'm not a doctor, so I'm just telling you, I would observe things and then recommend them to go to a specialist if they needed further confirmation. But a lot of them just did a food journal and they realized, wow, they had no idea that they were sensitive or whatever.
Right. So absolutely. Dennis and I, Chef Dennis, who is here, happens to be my husband, very talented man. And he really is a professional chef. Went through JJ Virgin's healthy diet approach. And for 21 days, we eliminated completely from our diet sugar, gluten, milk, soy, corn, peanuts, and there was one more. Don't remember what the other one, dairy and eggs were in there too. And I'm allergic to many medications like penicillin, could kill me. But I really didn't realize I had any food sensitivities until we went through this. And then we did another 4 weeks of testing, which ones when you bring them back, and found out I was gluten sensitive. And I don't think I've been gluten sensitive my entire life, but an allergic reaction to an antibiotic the year before set off like IBS in me. And now I am, and it's so much better. I mean, both of us dropped weight. He's doesn't seem to be sensitive, but we know the differences now in focus and sleep patterns, and especially for me on some things. And I think you're spot on with the idea of keeping a journal to see what's going on, because we make assumptions. We do what's called the fallacy of composition in economics. You're a finance,
We're going to test that on.
Right. You get that. Well, yeah. And that was the one economic term that resonates with me more than anything else, because something happened here, we automatically assume it was caused by this other thing, or not caused, because they were too far apart, the incidents. And only by letting go of the assumptions we're making and putting things down into a journal and tracking what's actually happening will we see those patterns.
Yeah. And a lot of people assume that something's normal because they've dealt with it all along. They didn't even notice. For example, throat clearing. And a lot of people, in the morning, I had what I just thought was my morning voice, until somebody alerted me to the fact that I might be sensitive to dairy. And I said, you're kidding. And sure enough, I eliminated dairy and I got rid of that.
I did too. I did it every night. As soon as I laid down, I would cough several times. Once I went off the dairy, because I usually have just almond milk or coconut milk now, that throat clearing at night or when I laid down, it has completely disappeared. It's amazing.
And for singers or speakers, it's very important to be able to speak.
Exactly. Well, we do stage work, so no milk. But even people who think that they can get all of their fruits, like in fruit juice or the vegetable juices, loading yourself up with some of these things is really the worst thing you can do. As you pointed out, you can overdose on natural sugar, or it can negatively affect you, and you need a balance. And some of these juices just throw too much at you at one time. All right, Chef Dennis has a question. It says, Dori, I have to ask, do you pattern your style of drumming after any of the best drummers, Keith Moon, Buddy Rich? And I know Dennis missed the early part of your bio. So go ahead and repeat that if you'd like.
Okay, Dennis, I wish. I actually don't play the full kit. I play hand percussion. So my influences are Santana, Sheila E., and just a lot of Tico Fuentes, a lot of the really cool percussionists out there. I watch them, I follow them, I study them to pick up a few tips. I met Bashiri Johnson recently at a workshop out in Asheville, North Carolina, and that was very cool to hear about all the famous people he's played with and recorded with and everything else. So I just love hearing their stories and how they just found rhythm in their heads all the time too, and it comes out in their hands. And so so now I can play much faster than when I first started, and it syncs up much better. I can now create the beats in my head. They now come out in my hands. In the beginning it was a little tough because the whole body mind connection wasn't working, but now it does.
Right. Well, everything's energy, and drumming is one of the best examples of that is so much easier for people to see, witness, feel, hear. I mean, it just engages all of the senses, even if you're not the drummer, if you're just listening to that. Dennis used to manage a band, and he cool. Karen Carpenter was the other one I was thinking. You know, she was an awesome singer, and her brother played piano beautifully, but man, could she play the drums, the full set of drums. In fact, I shared a clip of her from YouTube on Facebook not that long ago. So Cindy writes, good point about keeping the food journal. And when she started her 12-step program a dozen years ago and then let it lapse because I got what I wanted at the time, I bet some of that changed now, and will be good to do it again to find out about those changes. And yes, our systems change over time. So just because we may not have been allergic to something earlier on doesn't mean we're not allergic or sensitive to it now, and vice versa. I've got, cousins who are really allergic to major food allergies when they were children that outgrew those allergies.
Exactly. And you know what else I discovered? My study was called the Gifted ADHD Connection. Most of the people who have ADD, ADHD traits, believe it or not, have high IQs. They have high levels of creativity, and they're all right-brained learners. We think in pictures, so it takes us time to convert those pictures to words or numbers, so we don't always test well. So that's why a lot of those kids get labeled LD, learning disabled, or ADHD, number one. Number two, the number one cause of ADHD issues is actually stress. Stress can trigger ADHD issues and ADD issues in just about anyone. And that's what I discovered after the accident. I was all over the place, and I thought, wow, I've never been this bad. Drumming actually helped me calm down and focus, and it synced up the left and right hemispheres of my brain so that I was more balanced and I didn't have all those crazy thoughts, and I was focusing much better. And I do deep breathing sometimes while I drum, not when I'm playing for fun, but when I'm drumming for myself, or if I'm doing a drumming meditation or a drum circle event, I also do drum healing. And we'll do some deep breathing just to bring them back to and have them focus on what's important, what do you need to do today, have them focus on their hopes and dreams, and you just keep drumming. And it's a lot like, for those of us who are too hyper to meditate, that's my form of meditation. I just drum a steady beat. You can even do it on your legs. So there you go.
Yeah, it's kind of like a form of tapping, which
that has never worked for me. And I always joke with people, I tap, but on a drum. So there we go.
Hey, you got to find what works for you, and you've got to look. Exactly. Just because one method doesn't work for you or doesn't work as well as you want it to doesn't mean another one might not. There may be another one over there. Cindy says, I get very focused on the computer keyboard. I bet that is my form of drumming, because writing does not achieve the same thing. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I did put in the chat box links to my site, links to Dori's book on Amazon, and her website where you can get some free music. Is there a way to get your list of 10 about what causes ADHD?
Yeah, I could probably put that together. I do notice here that the Facebook link you have here is incorrect.
Oh, well, that I copied and pasted from
the Twitter is Rock Next Stage. It was my bad. The Facebook.com is Rock the Next Stage. Is Twitter I had to shorten it.
Okay, so the Facebook one is
Rock the Next Stage. Okay.
Yeah, it's missing from your link here. I will just add that in here and repost it. Thank you for noticing that.
So I can focus and concentrate. There you go. I always thought the things I'm supposed to, but hey, I can.
Well, it's been awesome getting to know you, getting to know your history. Now, I don't have big musicians in my past, but my great-grandmother was the first woman on radio. She was a friend of the Edgar Guest family and was his son's dramatic arts tutor. And my grandmother and aunt were the children, along with Edgar Guest's son Bud, were the first children ever on radio. And my aunt and grandmother sang and played the piano. So I think that's really cool. But just for the benefit of those who came in late, some of the people, that little bit of what fueled your interest in drums and percussion early on in your life, in your early life. Some of the people that your family associated with and worked with.
Hang on a second there. Facebook.com, try that one. Okay. Yes. When I was listening to a lot of my dad's records and things like that, yes, I love the jazz drumming, but I discovered, really dating myself here, a little band called Cream. And the drummer was Ginger Baker. And Eric Clapton was in the band as well. And I became a fan of Ginger Baker. And I just wanted to drum really quickly. And I just love the cool beats. So so it kind of branched out from there. And just a lot of the rock drummers out there. But later on, as I got older, I discovered funk. And I always joke, I'm a white chick with rhythm. There you go. So when people, they assume that I play certain types of music, and I tell them, no, I have played just about everything from R&B to classic rock, whatever people ask me to play, blues and contemporary Christian, of course, Christian rock. Lots of different styles. I try to add a little flavor. I don't even play the music. So when I play in a band and they ask me, do you want the charts? I always say, don't need no stinking music. I can do my own thing. And I just go with the beat and I fill in different things and add different things that I think need to be added. It could be bongos and congas. It could be a little djembe. It could be shakers and tambourine. It could be blocks. I have all kinds of stuff that I could whack, shake, or whatever. And that's what I go with. And I'm just looking for music that has a really solid beat. And I love some of the new stuff too. In fact, a friend of mine and I were preparing for a festival gig. I was booking bands and they actually asked for me and I said, okay, I'll throw something together. So he and I are getting together. We're trying to match our styles so that we have something that's, you can tap your feet to.
All right. And then your best advice for those who are musicians or want to be speaking more, open up your possibilities, ask for what you'd like. Don't just take what's offered or assume you have to do it for free. Mm-hmm. Free is okay if that's your choice, but don't assume that that's the only way you have to go about it. That's what I tell people. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to know your value. You have to know your value and what you're worth. A lot of people definitely underprice themselves and they have no idea that they could have charged way more.
Yeah. And know your field, know what the norm is for getting paid,
For that type of gig, for that amount of time, for somebody, with X amount of experience. It all kind of factors into it, but it also depends on what value are you bringing to the audience. Make sure you remind them of that.
Well, I'm so glad that you elevated your love of drumming and used it to help heal you and move you forward. Like so glad you were here to join us. So glad we connected. And I'm going to have to close this episode. Sure. Make sure you check out Dori Staehle on Facebook and her website, Rock the Next Stage. And I'm sure she will probably answer any questions you send to her through her contact areas.
Definitely. And if you are a musician, I do have a free report on my website, Career Killers, 20 Mistakes Musicians Make. Comes from experience, keeping it real. So if you'd like to snag that, go right ahead and you can get my free weekly newsletter. Comes out every Tuesday night with tips, sometimes a funny story. You just never know. And, and of course, my book is on Amazon, Find Your Divine Rhythm.
Absolutely. Thank you again. Sure and thank you everybody for watching here who was live in the chat gallery with us and who will be watching this replay. Those you will be able to see those links again. If you watch on Blab, you can check them out on my website. You can also watch the replay later on YouTube. This is Kat Sturtz from rockingyourpath.com, closing another episode of Fast Action Friday. And I want to remind you, remember to rock your unique path to success. See you next week.
Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day.